Chapter 4, News Wars. Precisely 24 hours later, in the brand new media center of the University of Alabama, reporters sat poised for a news offensive, cameras flashing like artillery at a single target behind the podium. Dr. Elder, Pointy said, "Yes, the CNN journalist in the front. How can you be so certain of these results? Have they been repeated by other scientists?" Bill's countenance revealed a balance of confidence and humility. They have indeed. The McKusick-Nathans Institute of Genetic Medicine at Johns Hopkins has just completed a study that confirmed our results. Other groups plan to collaborate in what are now called genetic reconstructions. Dr. Elder. Yes, he pointed. The New York Times journalists in the back. What about the metaphysical implications? This intelligent design program seems designed to justify creationism. Dr. Elder smiled. Well, science must go where the evidence leads. Obviously, this discovery can be seen as strong evidence for an intelligent designer, but I have to ask, what's the problem? When you look at the evidence objectively, without ruling out intelligent design in advance, you find that design is far and away the best explanation. And if the evidence leads to a superintelligence, one we would naturally call God, then so be it. Dr. Elder, why do you feel that you must resort to God as an explanation when evolution has such explanatory power for so many other cases? Doesn't this ideology work as a disincentive for those who might otherwise seek a naturalistic explanation? Well, not at all. Take, for example, my own area of research. Evolutionists call it junk DNA, which reveals how low they value this field of research. Now, since the discovery of DNA, evolutionists keep trying to deny the implications of this unparalleled complexity that codes for the finely tuned proteins required for life. Francis Crick, for example, went so far as to say, biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see is not designed, but rather evolved. So when scientists first discovered that only 5% of human DNA coded for proteins, they assigned junk status to the other 95% because evolutionists concluded that it had lost its function over vast stretches of time. Now, certainly there is evidence of a mutational loss of information in the code. However, scientists have discovered many functions for this class of DNA. Examples include transcription regulation, origin of replication sites, spacers for alternative gene splicing, leader sequences, trailing sequences, and also as an aid of DNA repair. Like many scientists of the past, I was motivated to discover God's purposeful design in what others called meaningless junk. Dr. Elder, all you've told us thus far is that science is self-correcting, and yet you seem to imply that creationism was required to make these discoveries. Well, no, scientists of all stripes were involved in these discoveries, but they were not motivated by evolutionary thinking. Let me offer the comparable example of vestigial organs. Evolutionary scientists once ranked hundreds of organs in human anatomy as vestigial because they reasoned that if functional organs could evolve into existence, they could also devolve into dysfunction as vestiges of a past stage. However, since good science seeks to discover how things function, not dysfunction, the evolutionary list of vestigial organs has essentially shrunk to zero. Another journalist interjected, Dr. Elder, how does any of this relate to the findings of your research? Oh, please pardon me. Sometimes we research scientists forget the bottom line. What our team has discovered is a biological algorithm that once functioned with an error detection correction mechanism in the DNA code. It appears to be a previously unknown form of redundant data coding. We believe this explains something on the order of 60% of the protein coding DNA. Dr. Elder, you already mentioned that DNA error correction mechanisms exist. What's new here? This redundant data coding mechanism was once used to ensure that when mutations occurred, and there are many causes for mutation, they were repaired before further replication. Dr. Elder, what do you mean once used? Do you mean that some organisms have experienced detrimental mutations in their error correction mechanisms? No, that's not what I mean. As a scientist, I can't say how this error detection correction mechanism stopped functioning since it happened sometime in the past, but it does not exhibit one of the key characteristics observed in all mutations. What characteristic are you referring to? Randomness. The loss of this biological mechanism was not random. Dr. Elder, how do you know that it wasn't random? Well, this algorithmically encoded information is found in all 5 kingdoms of life, yet the error detection correction mechanism did not cease to function over time, but suddenly and universally, you might say catastrophically, for all life. The effect of this final disclosure could not be gauged only except for the delayed reaction that seemed to wait on words to meet the rising concerns. Instead, another question filled the gap. Dr. Elder, what evidence do you have of the validity of this supposed biological algorithm? Well, using this algorithm, we have now reconstructed the genetic code for certain pseudogenes. Now, pseudogenes fall into 3 classes. First, genes that are disabled copies of protein coding genes. Second, genes serving unconventional functions. Third, genes that are not yet understood. Now, since evolutionists once assumed all pseudogenes were in the first class, and because they assumed common descent for certain organisms, that would be like monkeys and men, sharing pseudogenes was taken as evidence of an evolutionary line of descent. Now we know that pseudogenes are shared by unrelated organisms, for example, hamsters and humans, and so they cannot be taken as evidence of shared mistakes in a line of descent. So in our research, we found that functional genes could be used as a template for comparison to the reconstruction of the disabled pseudogenes. So far, the match has been perfect. The probability of stumbling on such a match is vanishingly small. The existence of this error detection correction algorithm is almost certainly a confirmation of intelligent design. Dr. Elder, your interpretation of these discoveries seems to be right off the script of the leading voice for intelligent design, the Finding Institute. Is it possible that other scientists could interpret the facts in another way? Well, I'm aware of the work of the Finding Institute, and I respect their accomplishments, but there has been no contact with them whatsoever. Please let me remind you of the science. The McKusick-Nathans Institute of Genetic Medicine at Johns Hopkins has just completed a study yielding the same results as our research team. With this, the nervous decorum finally broke down. As reporters left the room to make calls, a security official stepped forward and whispered something to Dr. Elder. With a startled look, he scanned the back of the room for an exit, grabbed his notes, and pressed towards the door. Those remaining tried to engage him for more questions, but he managed to shake them off to run out the door, into the street, and hail a cab. With all the chaos, only a few seemed to notice a bank of TV monitors in the lobby snapping to attention for another news conference. Flanked by scientists in white lab coats, the president stood at a podium with the presidential seal. Behind was a brilliant projected image of the now familiar stem cell experiment. She began with a measured enthusiasm. Today is a historic day.